Hey, Stonewater family, and welcome to another Stonewater podcast. We are continuing our conversation around Man Camp. And today I've got one of my best friends, Casey Oliver. Casey, why don't you tell us a little bit? You're a pastor here, but what do you do for Stonewater?
Yeah, Woody, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Woody's actually my mentor in Regen, and so he gets to hear all my deep, dark, dirty secrets, but really just an incredible encourager to me. I get to lead our Central Ministries team, and so really I play a role in helping lead a lot of the ministries across all of our campuses. So anything from Regen, Reengaged, groups, kids ministry, students, even men's ministry, get to play a role in just helping serve those leaders and really kind of set some vision and direction across those different ministries and recruiting and training and developing leaders and deploying them. So just get to work with some amazing just leaders within our church and to do the ministry of the church.
So I don't know if many people know this, but you didn't start out wanting to be a pastor at Stonewater. So how did you get here? How long have you been here?
Been at Stonewater for about 10 years. I originally went to school for city planning and came out and was a city planner here in Granbury and had no intentions of being in ministry other than looking for opportunities to serve. And then God just continued to just place a desire in my heart to do more for the kingdom. And how do I use our free time? How do we use vacation? How do we just kind of orient our lives around building the kingdom? And at the time, had relationships with different pastors here at the church, and the church was growing, and we were well outgrowing our staff. And I know Justin Sprayberry, one of our executive pastors, was about to pull his hair out at the time and have a nervous breakdown, and just God was blessing the church in huge ways, and so had an opportunity to come on to do operations. So did a lot with facilities and construction and use some of my training in city planning, but most of it was just trying to make it through the day and figure out, God, what are you doing and why are you using me? And then just continued to grow, had more opportunities in ministry, and then just got to work with some great leaders and just continue to develop leaders. So yeah, didn't see that coming. I had no idea I would be here. Been here for about 10 years now, and absolutely love it.
Awesome. So we want to talk about Man Camp. So 10 years, you've been to more than a few Man Camps. How many Man Camps do you think you've been to?
I have no idea. It's kind of funny when you ask most men, hey, what's the first time you went to Man Camp? And almost everyone says the first one, but I just don't think they know how many we've had. So there's something about Man Camp. You just feel like, gosh, this is something new. I've never heard about this. I've never seen this. And it's so impactful in their life. And so it really does. It doesn't matter if you've been to 10 of them or 20 of them, or if this is your first one, you feel like you've been around for a long time.
Yeah. So I want to hear about your first Man Camp, and I would love to hear as much of the other Man Camps as you can tell us. But yeah, so walk us back. Your first Man Camp, new guy, probably first time showing up. What did you see? What were you worried about? What were you thinking about?
It was a huge time. I thought the odds of me making it to Man Camp were about 5%. I started hearing promotion about this. It was long before I was on staff. I was just a guy sitting in the seats. I think the only thing I'd really done in the church was pick up an offering bucket, and I still thought, man, that's a pretty big deal. Like, that's really important. I can't believe they trust me with the money. But I saw the promotion and thought that's absolutely not something I'm going to do. There's no way.
Why is that?
There's no way I'm going to walk into some camp that I've never been to on the other side of Glen Rose, which is just, I grew up in Granbury, so you just didn't go to Glen Rose. There's just no reason to go that way. So yeah, why do I go over there? Why am I going to a church camp? I knew it was a place where they did church stuff. Why would I go with a bunch of dudes? Why would I stay the night in a bunk, in some bed? I don't know if they're going to haze me. I don't know if we're going to do Bible trivia. I have no idea what to expect.
You're worried about, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot.
I've got no clue. No clue what's taking place. Jeremy's a few years older than me. A lot of our leadership was just a few years older, and it's just like, being a freshman in high school. Like, I don't want to show up with all the seniors and get wrecked in the middle of the locker room. And So I just thought this is just not for me. One day probably not, but just not going to do it. And I remember Pastor Jeremy, actually, I think he gave me a phone call. His wife worked with my wife, so he was kind of nagging me a little bit. And he gave me a phone call and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know about Man Camp. Didn't know if you'd heard about it, but man, I'd love for you to go. I'd love for you. This is the first one we've ever done. There'll be about 40 guys there, and we're just personally inviting men to come to Man Camp." And I did the typical, man, that sounds incredible. How awesome. What a great weekend. I need to check with Lisa, my wife, and see if that's something I'll do. But thanks so much for calling me, Jeremy.
And your intention was
Not a chance. Like, hang up the phone. No way. I may never talk to this guy again. I might have to move churches because of this conversation we just had. So left that, and then it was maybe within a week I get a letter in the mail from Jeremy, and I'm sure they sent it out to all the guys, but I got this letter in the mail. I'm like, well, this guy's serious. Like, he's really asking for this. They're trying real hard, but there's not a chance. Like, they're going to have to try so much harder. If he would have put money in it, maybe I would have just felt the guilt to go, but just wasn't going to happen. And then just a couple of days later, I had a buddy call me, and a longtime Granbury guy, and his name was Ryan, and he just called and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to Man Camp." I said, "Wow, that's good for you. Really, high five. Why are you calling me?" And he said, "Man, I'd love for you to go with me." And I just thought there for a minute, I was like, why is this gentleman, he's just a little bit older than me, somebody I kind of admired and looked up to, and why is he inviting me? It's one thing when your pastor is, but it's even different when a buddy is. And so he invites me, and I said, "Ryan, I don't know about this. Like, what do I do? Pack a sleeping bag? Like, when's the last time? It's like I'm going to a slumber party, in junior high. Like, what? I don't even know what to do. Been on camping trips, that kind of stuff. This is just different." And he said, "Hey, just come with me. I'll drive. We'll park a long ways away from everyone else. So if we need to bail, we'll just bail." So we literally said, we've got a getaway plan. He tried to make it as safe for me as he could. And he said, just come with me. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Just hang with me. I'll take care of you. So just had some confidence there. And of course, my wife did an amazing job. She's just playing it cool the whole time. She's dying for me to go, but she's just, "Hey, have you thought about going? Or how's Ryan? Did you follow up with him?" Just little seeds. So I knew what she desired, but she did a great job of just not pushing or nagging, and she just encouraged me. She made it easy for me to leave and easy for me to go. So rode with Ryan to Man Camp. Had no idea what it was going to be like. Walked into a cabin, little meeting room in one of these cabins, which is just a little bunkhouse kind of building, and had 40 men in there. And I didn't know one other person. I knew Ryan, who I was with. I knew Jeremy, I knew of him. He was standing at the front. Had seen one or two of the other pastors that were there, but didn't know one other person. And those guys were I was probably one of the younger, if not the youngest men that was in the room. And at the time, I was probably 26, 27. So I was a pretty young guy in that environment. And just was welcomed from the very beginning. It was those guys just treated me so well, encouraged me, just started shaking hands. Nobody acted like I was the new guy. They acted like everybody was the new guy, and so just shook hands and encouraged one another. Got to meet some names. Got to have a conversation with some of those men for a couple of minutes, and so just started to feel a little more comfortable that, hey, this might be a place for me, and kind of settled in. And I realized these are all grown-ups. Nobody's hazing. Nobody's doing anything stupid. I think the first night we might have played dodgeball or just some kind of game. Had an opportunity for some of the younger guys to get moving and get the blood flowing. But other than that, it was very safe. Nothing crazy was going to happen. So went through that first night, and I still was a little unsure until the first speaker got up and just started talking. And God just does what he does at Man Camp. Like, he just showed up in a powerful way. All of a sudden, everyone else in the room disappeared, and here I am sitting in this cabin that I never thought I'd be in, listening to this man share scripture and truth from God's word that was just penetrating my heart. I mean, it was many guys could attest to sitting in a service on a Sunday morning and believe the pastor's talking directly to them. Well, like the Lord was just speaking directly into my life, into my marriage, into my what it looked like to be a father, and so it was just an intense moment of me recognizing, hey, we're not playing church right now. We're not just trying to be a bunch of good old boys. We're like God really wants to do something in our lives, and He wants to do something in my life, in that moment. And so just began to listen and think, this is the real deal. Like, you need to buckle up and get ready. We're going to do some work over about 24 hours. And so that was a really impactful night, really encouraging. Thought this is probably going to be a good use of my time over 24 hours. Told Ryan, I think we can make it.
You didn't bail.
No, I told him just leave the keys in the truck just in case. Who knows what's going to happen at 2 a.m. But I feel pretty good right now. I think we can make it. And of course, he knew exactly what was going on. That God would just get a hold of me and get a hold of us. And God's just a good father. He's just encouraging and loving and
So
kind.
did you? I mean, there's a small group of guys there, and that was like 10 years ago. It was the very first man camp, right? What about some of the conversations you had with the other men? Like Pastor Jeremy, I think you mentioned that you had a conversation with him, but yeah, what was that like? Did you walk away with man camp knowing men at a different level than when you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. We were walking from a dining hall. I remember back from kind of the cafeteria and headed back to the cabin, and there's just an opportunity for some small talk. And I really don't do a very good job with small talk. I don't like talking about the weather. I like talking about real stuff in life. And Jeremy comes up and starts talking to me, and I remember just thinking, this is just what the guy's supposed to do. Like, he's the pastor. He doesn't know me very well. He's just supposed to.
He's like a politician.
That's it. He's shaking hands, kissing babies, and so he just started talking. And I placate him. I'm just like, yeah, I'll small talk with you, but I'm going to keep you at a distance. I remember thinking that I'm not going to let you in too much. I don't know what you think of me. I don't know if I measure up, and he's probably just asking me about the weather. I mean, and I'm already have all these head games going on. But just so much insecurity and pride, and he just began to ask if I'd ever done anything like this, and if I ever grew up in kids like a kids camp, if I ever been to church camp. And I was like, man, I think I might have gone once to a kids camp, but no, I've never done anything like this. And I was doing my best not to lie to him at the time, like say, oh yeah, I do this all the time. I'm so comfortable. This is so easy. And I said, no, I'll just try to be honest. And he was, super gracious, super kind. It was probably a 2-minute conversation. And I remember him walking away and me just thinking, I'm going to watch this guy. Like that was really kind and really thoughtful, and really caring. But is he really like this? Like, is he always like this? Is this just the thing you do as a pastor? And so I really kind of created some distance between Jeremy and I, probably because of a lot of pride in me, but I wanted to test this guy. I wanted to see, what am I up against? Men are always looking to compete, and we struggle to compare. And I just saw this man who was faithful and was honoring to his wife when he spoke, and was diving in to see what it looks like to try to parent his kids and lead them to the Lord. And so it was a little bit intimidating. It was just a guy that's a little further down the road. But then I remember from that point on, just said, I'm just going to watch him, and I'm just going to test him and see what it looks like. And the guy just continued to be incredibly genuine, and just kept coming back to me, just kept coming back, and for a conversation here, a conversation there, and just engaging to develop a relationship. And so it was just kind of the beginning of a relationship there of just getting to know Jeremy, which was really neat. Something else, another gentleman I remember is John Key, real neat gentleman. But
love John Key.
I remember a moment we're sitting in a breakout session. So we'd have some main group sessions, and then we'd have some smaller breakout sessions as well. And John Key got up to start this breakout session, and he said, hey, we're going to do a drawing, and we're going to draw for this Bible. We're going to give this Bible. We had one Bible. We're going to give this Bible away to one of the men in the room. And I'd never experienced anything like this, at least not in a really long time. And I just felt like God was telling me right then, I'm gonna win this Bible. it reminds me, I have this fear of going to a comedy club, and all of a sudden the spotlight hits me, and this guy just starts ripping me, and you're sweating and all. That's literally what's happening in
That's
the
hilarious.
room. I'm like, oh my goodness, God is literally saying, I'm about to win this Bible, and panic just ensued in my body.
Why would you be panicked about?
I've got to
winning the
get. I've
Bible?
got to get up. I've got to walk up in the front of this room. All these guys are going to think, who's this guy? He won. Oh, what's his name? It's Casey. Is that a girl's name? Is that a guy's? Like just all the insecurities well up, and probably the bigger part of that was like I knew it was of the Lord. Like it wasn't of me, and so I knew the Lord was saying, I'm about to give you this Bible. I'm about to give you this tool. I'm about to give you this gift. And I'm giving you this gift with some expectations. And so there was this immediate fear of, am I going to live up to the expectations, to the honor of winning this? Am I going to live up? Can I measure up? And what are they going to expect me to do with it? Are they going to ask me to open and read it, out loud? What's going to happen, God? I just don't know. But I absolutely believe this is of you, that I'm about to win this Bible. So just overwhelmed with fear. And 10 seconds later, they call my name. And I'm like, my life's over. Like, it's everything that I imagined is over. Like, God's about to wreck me. But he's just so incredibly gentle and patient and kind with me. And so I stand up. I don't trip. I don't fall. I make it up there. I don't have to.
Nobody makes fun of your name.
I don't have to give a speech. I don't have to. They hand you the Bible and you sit down. You're like, oh yeah, that's probably how it's going to go, And I sit down and I think, oh, now it's just me and the Lord. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, what does this mean? And just a few minutes after that session, they gave us about 30 minutes to go to our bunk. And I remember I was in top bunk in cabin 9 over on side B. Like, I know exactly where I was, and climbed up to the top of the bunk and laying there. And I think we were reading First Peter, and opened it up and said, God, I haven't like read this in a long, long time. I haven't just opened this. I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know if these are just going to be words on a page, and I'm going to pick up in the middle of some story, and I'm not going to know what's going on. And God just, he just said, just open it. And so I just opened it. And then I don't remember anything on the page. I just remember him speaking and saying, like I want you to be with me. Like I want to spend time with you. But more importantly, like I have a mission for you. And I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to walk you through that. And I had no idea what that meant or what that was, but I just felt like the Lord was saying, like, I'm calling you in. Like, I'm calling you off the bench. I'm putting you in the game. Do you want to go play? Do you want to come play with me? And I remember thinking at the time, I don't have what it takes. I don't know what I need. I don't know I don't know if I'm qualified, but this Bible was kind of like the perfect tool. I'm a little bit of a tool snob, so doing woodworking or anything like that, I love just good tools. And that's kind of a leveling factor for a carpenter. If you can have a good tool, you can really make up for some bad skill. So I just heard the Lord say, hey, I just gave you the greatest tool ever. I'm a DeWalt guy, so I just remember thinking, like, this is the DeWalt of tools to function in the kingdom. You've got the exact thing that you need. You're on a level playing field with every other person, every other man. Some of these men have been walking with the Lord for 30, 40, 50 years. Like, you've got the exact same tool that they do. You've got access to me, which is ultimately what doing ministry is all about, is just serving the Lord. And so he just encouraged me that, hey, I've got you. You've got what you need. This Bible and me are enough. And I said, all right, I'll play. I remember sitting on that bunk and saying, God, I'll just do my best to go where you want me to go, do what you want me to do, and just kind of stop running from you. So that was a really big moment. Something as simple as the Lord speaking to me about winning a Bible and walking up to the front of the room. So there's some really big moments of man camp for me.
Awesome. You've been to many man camps after that. I would love to hear, like some pivotal moments, maybe, as you look back, because you've been to more than just one. That was your first man camp. I can't imagine what happened on the other ones. But yeah, bring me into just a couple of really special moments in man camp, or turning points where, hey, you realize that maybe you were supposed to go into the ministry, or just some topics that you needed to hear, speakers that you needed to hear, breakout sessions that really made a huge difference, even people that you met that were pretty influential. So lots of man camp. Tell me some of the major milestones along the way.
You bet. There was, of course, that first one was really impactful, and just said, Lord, like send me. And so when man camp had an opportunity to come up again, I just thought, God, if this is a place where you speak, I just want to go. Like, I have no idea what you're going to have for me next. And so it just kind of came part of my MO that this is just a place that God shows up, and you think, well, you're gonna drive out to this camp, and you're gonna stay in a cabin. You're gonna hear some speakers and some sessions. You're probably gonna do some fun stuff along the way. You're gonna have some guys that are laughing and some silly things that take place. But there's no magic formula other than God just keeps showing up. And so I remember the second main camp, I showed up and ended up developing a relationship with Pastor Justin Sprayberry, and Jeremy Morgan, another great friend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know a good buddy of yours.
Yep.
And we just kind of grouped up and said, hey, we've got this widow in our church, and we would love to serve her. We'd love to find a way to care for her. She had an older son who lived with her who had epilepsy, and her name was Miss Long, and we all love her here on staff. And had an opportunity leaving main camp. We just kind of made a pact and gathered up and said, hey, let's go serve this widow. And so I had some buddies kind of for the first time to hang out with, to spend time with, serving someone else. And that was huge. I'd had buddies that we played golf and drank beer and whatever you do with your buddies. And it was just a whole new world to think I've got some other men who are like-minded, who are focused on building the kingdom, who want to serve someone else. And man, that was so much fun. And so we had an opportunity to serve in different kinds of ministries, just caring for people after main camp. But it started with relationships at main camp, and us just getting focused with that kind of time of how we want to spend our lives. There was another main camp. I had an older gentleman. His name was Matt Hammond. He was on our advisory board for a really long time, and just it's one of those mentors. It's one of those men that you look up to. The dude's like 6'3" and ripped, and he's, probably a 50, 60-year-old. I mean, he's just everything you want to grow up to be. He's got a house full of daughters. I have 5 daughters, so he's got a house full of daughters who are just crazy about him, and an awesome son. He's just an amazing husband, an amazing father, and he's actually helped start a marriage ministry here. Well, I got to meet him at a main camp. He got up and spoke at a breakout session. So this is a guy that I admire, and he stands up and begins to talk. And he starts sharing stories about his business and just some really difficult things in his business that had taken place, and some really bad decisions that he had made along the way with a business that he had built. And it was just the first time I'd heard men talk about their own, personal, in their bedroom sin struggle, either pornography or alcohol addiction, something like that. But for a businessman who built his business to talk about his own sin and deception as a part of his business was just kind of foreign to me. I was like, man, this guy is, he's really messing with the way that he makes a living. Like, this is a really big deal, and he's willing to share it with us. And of course, it was devastating to him and his family. And then, just shared how God really restored it and redeemed it, and just changed him, and now how he mentors people in business. And so that was just a really neat testimony that stuck with me, that I'd never heard someone share anything like that before. And there's 100 of those, of men getting up and sharing testimonies that you can, maybe not the exact same circumstances, but you absolutely relate to, as to what's going on in their heart, to lead them to that, and then how God just wants to rectify it, how he wants to really change those hearts. We have a lot of fun at man camp too. We get to just play.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the memories of just being guys having fun.
I'm a little older now than I was, and so I do a lot more, drinking tea and Diet Dr. Pepper and eating peanuts, things like that. But back in the early days, you have opportunities to play. We've got guys who'll stay up till, most of our sessions end about 10:30, and from 10:30 to 2, they're playing basketball, they're playing ultimate frisbee, or So back in the younger days, I'd love to go out and play basketball. I'm not any good, but I thought, man, these are bunch of pastors, bunch of church guys. Like, surely I can whip
How
them.
bad can it be?
Yeah, that's right. And it's pretty cutthroat. You know, I mean, we like to compete, and I remember one of the pastors. We have quite a few good basketball players on our staff, by the way. I'm not one of them, but one of the pastors had an opportunity to play, and you just see these guys out, you know, like outside of a Sunday morning or outside of a teaching environment, and they're just being guys. And so you get to, roughhouse with them and throw some elbows and talk some trash. And I remember one of these younger pastors at the time, was a pretty good basketball player, and I didn't like that he was whipping me. And if he's listening, he'll know exactly who he is. And I remember just thinking, it's my responsibility to kill this guy tonight. You know, like for everyone else here, just to shut his mouth, I'm going to kill him. And so we just started a friendship even from that, and became just some brothers in the ministry, and just love razzing each other. So just some great memories of guys just getting to be guys and getting to play and getting to laugh. And so it's just this neat combination of like God just speaking in really powerful ways, being really challenging, talking about really intentional things in your life, along with just these good relationships and friendships that are formed, plus some fun, like the opportunity to laugh and be a guy and just kind of let your hair down for a minute and just relax and laugh. So it's kind of neat, all the things that take place in about 24 hours.
Yeah. So one of the things we know that at Man Camp, there's a lot of main speakers. Like, so there's breakout sessions, you alluded to a few of those, but there's also these guys that, you know, talk to the larger group of men. We've had, and I personally know we aren't afraid to really tackle some hard topics. When you look back, what do you remember of those main speakers, and what do you remember of like some of the topics they covered that had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, there was. It's just so refreshing to see these men get up, and you can tell they're good communicators. You can tell they probably do this for a living, week in and week out. So they're just great communicators, and they do an amazing job of just connecting with the guys on a guy level. But it's really neat just to see kind of the vocabulary changes. They're not talking to a room full of people. They're talking to a room full of men just like them. And so you just quickly realize these guys struggle with many of the same things that I struggle. They're the things that they're sharing I can absolutely relate to. So you just quickly make a connection with these communicators. And then just some of the topics we tackle, I mean, it could be anything to from adultery, it could be from parenting, it could be from leading prodigals, trying to figure out how to be a parent to sons and daughters who have run away from the Lord. Anything, what it looks like to minister in your workplace. I know we had one man camp session that was, we really just talked about sexual sin the entire weekend. And we told guys beforehand, hey, this is something that's...
literally the whole weekend was just about sexual sin.
We just believe it was such a big deal, and wanted to take an opportunity to arm our men with some tools. And so we, talked about pornography and
masturbation.
Just a whole list of sexual sin type topics. And it was so neat to see it just be normal. Like, this is, guys, these are the real battles. I mean, we can talk about not screaming as a basketball coach on the sideline. That's great. We need to be able to keep our emotions in check. But
I remember that weekend, and I think that this was one of the things that stuck with me is that weekend about sexual sin. Because one of the things that I think it was raining. That weekend it was raining, so we had to kind of pull an audible and rechange some of our plans. And so we were in the main auditorium, and there were groups of guys that were like going to different parts of the worship place, and I had to lead a circle. And I was trying to get like, how do we retain what guys are learning? So I made them write something down on a card. I was like, so what has God shown you? What do you want to change, and who are you doing it for? So I wanted them to tie in. I was trying to get them to think. And then at the end, I said, guys, who'd be willing to share up and, stand up and share what they wrote? And I remember one guy, I forget his name, but it was Matt Sessoms who got up and talked about objectifying your wife, right? Just using her. not seeing her as a whole person and somebody you're responsible for lead. And some guy stood up and said, I have, and I remember it vividly, the look on his face. It was that look of realization of both shame and hope, at the same time. And he stands up and he says, I learned this weekend that I have been objectifying my wife our entire marriage. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to talk to her and treat her like a person for the first time. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I thought, that's cool, right? First, he's like, he didn't want to stand up, but he did.
That's right.
But I remember that vividly going, okay, that's why we do man camp. Like, that guy's marriage is now forever changed.
That's right. It's not abnormal for a guy after a Friday night to say, hey, this is really good. I'm not going to be here tomorrow because I've got business to do in my family. And those guys would say, I just can't not go talk to my wife or my son or my daughter or my dad. We've had opportunities where I remember we had a pastor come in and just talk about evangelism, talk about what it looks like to lead people to the Lord and how to build a relationship, and just stirred this desire in us for people to know the Lord. And this gentleman was there, and he said, I think it was his father-in-law. He said, I can't go another day without telling him about Jesus. And he literally left, and he was getting in his truck, and another guy said, hey, I want to go with you. And they drove to his father-in-law's house and led him to the Lord that night. He just said, I can't not share this. It's someone that he had been developing a relationship with, but he just didn't want to go another day. So to see God just move through these sessions year after year, here at Stonewater, it's kind of funny. SWC, Stonewater Church, we normally say that says something will change. If you've been around a while, we just like to try new things and do different things. But Man Camp has been something that's really stuck around for a really long time, simply because God just continues to move in it. And we see men do crazy things on a Friday night, go home and reconcile with their wives, or lead their children, or lead a father-in-law to the Lord, or just make a decision that night. We've had men who have said, hey, I've maybe been far from God for a long time. I believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, but I don't even know what the first step would be to surrendering my life to Him. And we've had guys say, well, have you ever been baptized? Like Scripture talks about.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a first act of obedience. You just say, Lord, like I just want to publicly declare to others that you're King. I'm submitting to you. And the guy says, no, I've never been baptized. And we said, well, you want to go to the river? Like, it's down here. Let's get baptized.
Joey does that.
It does. You just never know what's going to happen. And by the time we're down at the river, we've got 10 guys who are saying, like, I just want to surrender my life to the Lord. And so all of us are sitting there who maybe been walking with the Lord for a while, or just watching God do amazing things, and it inspires us. It encourages us. It reminds us that God is in the business of changing people's lives, and He wants to unleash men into our communities, into our families, to just have a huge impact. And so yeah, we just keep doing it, keep seeing crazy things. There's challenging topics, there's really hard things that we talk about that are relevant in men's lives, and at the same time, it's incredibly encouraging and inspiring to see men just allow the Lord to work in them.
Yeah. So we need to wrap up, because we could talk a lot about this.
Love Man Camp.
Yeah. So the question I've been asking the other guys, and I'll ask you, the guys are probably going to be listening to this and are kind of like where you probably were. Hey, there's no way I'm going to show up at Man Camp. That's just too much social pressure, too much spiritual pressure. I don't know where to park. There's any number of things that guys are going to use to throw out there that says, look, I don't want to show, right? But what would you tell them? Like, if you could tell them one thing to make them show up to Man Camp,
Sure.
what would you say?
I would just say risk it. There's just probably not anything more important, more intentional than saying, I want to dedicate 24 hours of my life to just hear what the Lord has for me. So if it's someone who's been walking with the Lord for a really long time and says, man, I've been to retreats, I've been to conferences, I spend time with the Lord, I'm I'm doing God's work. Man, there's just something. There's just very rare that we get to dedicate 24 hours to say, I just want to hear what the Lord has for me. I don't know what this next season of life looks like, but Lord, dedicating or investing time with you to be intentional to see where you might have me go is, I just can't think of a better use of the time. And then for those guys who have been before, or maybe they've, maybe just, again, somebody's been walking with the Lord for a long time, you just never know what kind of conversation you're going to have with a guy walking from the dining hall to the cabin. And it may be talking about the weather. It may be you just asking this gentleman his name and him getting to shake your hand and believing that somebody actually wants to know him or wants to know his name. You don't have an idea of the impact that you can have just by showing up. And then there's absolutely those guys that are like me that are just scared out of their mind and don't want to go. But if they're listening to this podcast, they're probably thinking, maybe I should. Like, what is this? God, you're already stirring something in me. You're already doing something in my family or doing something in my spouse, or God, do you want to do something in me? And I would just tell them to risk it, with all that fear that nothing crazy is going to happen. You're going to make it out of there just fine. You're not going to be embarrassed. But you're going to be surrounded by men who are in the same boat, who are saying, we just want to commit to what you have for us, Lord. And we don't know what that looks like. And but we just believe that you use this. And so that's one thing as a pastor. We just get the opportunity to see God do miracles in people's lives maybe more frequently than some others. We're just face to face with it over and over again.
You guys are at ground zero.
Yeah, you just see it over and over. So our confidence in the Lord moving in 24 hours is just really high because we've just seen it over and over and over. And so those guys that are out of hope, man, I got enough hope for both of us, to say I think God may want to do something here, even if it's just a word, even if it's just giving a guy win a drawing and win a Bible and say, Lord, just tell me what's coming next. Maybe it's just a relationship or a conversation. Maybe it's just seeing another man struggle and see how depending on the Lord is really the only way out of that. Like that's worth it. It's worth risking it to walk into something like that and provide God an opportunity just to do something big in your life.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose there.
Yeah.
Minus 24 hours, right? But there's a lot to gain.
That's right.
All right. Casey, this has been a pleasure, man. Thanks for sharing your
Love it.
story. Yeah, and hope guys show up to Man Camp. Yeah.
It'd be great. Guys, do show up.
Do show up.
Last Man Camp, we had almost 600 men. And so guys, show up. Like you're going to be walking in with a lot of men who are saying, maybe, man, I've never done this. I'm not sure. You're going to fit right in.
Yeah.
And they're going to be guys who said, I don't really know what's coming, but I just trust that God wants to do something.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.